Welcome to another episode of Inside the Future.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, me too. So I want you to think about the last time you were in a crowded subway station, during the morning rush.
No, yeah, pure chaos.
Right. You're probably worried about a delayed train or, dodging someone staring at their phone or just dealing with the sheer volume of noise.
Just trying to get to work.
Exactly. But what you couldn't see or smell or taste was the air itself. And specifically, the invisible, potentially engineered threats that could be circulating right alongside you.
It's a pretty terrifying thought when you actually stop and think about it.
That really is. I mean, how do authorities actually know that the air thousands of people are inhaling at, say, a border checkpoint or a major sporting event is actually safe from biological threats?
Right, because microscopic biological warfare agents, they operate entirely under the radar of our natural senses.
We'd have no idea.
None at all. By the time a human being shows physical symptoms of an exposure, the opportunity to contain the threat has largely passed.
The damage is already done.
Exactly. Early definitive detection is really the only true defense we have.
And that imperative is the mission of today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We are exploring the absolute cutting edge of autonomous biothreat detection.
It's fascinating stuff.
It really is. To understand how cities and military installations are tackling this, we're analyzing two distinct halves of a modern biosecurity network.
Because you really need both to make it work.
Right. So first we need to look at the physical hardware, specifically a system called iREBS, which stands for Bioidentification System, engineered by Battelle.
The boots on the ground, so to speak.
Yes, the physical sensor. And then we pair that with the command software that controls it. That's a platform called iREBS, developed by Germanizer.
Right, because you really cannot have effective, wide-scale security without both halves working in tandem.
Makes sense.
A brilliant physical sensor is essentially useless if you cannot safely manage it.
Oh, for sure.
And on the flip side, brilliant software is useless if the sensor on the ground is just, giving you bad data.
Right. Garbage in, garbage out. I look at this technology like the ultimate sort of sci-fi evolution of a home smoke detector.
Well, that's a good way to frame it.
Yeah, because your standard smoke detector just, senses particulate matter from burnt toast and makes a really loud noise.
Right.
But the systems we are looking at today, they actively hunt for specific molecular fingerprints of biowarfare agents in real time.
It's a whole different ballgame.
And when they find a threat, they don't just make a loud noise, right? They analyze the DNA level structure. They text the hazardous materials team.
Automatically.
Yeah, they log the geographical coordinates, and they even bottle up a physical sample for the police.
That framing really highlights the leap in capability here. But to grasp how this system actually pulls that off, we really have to start at the physical level.
The hardware.
Right. Before we get into cloud dashboards and remote commands, we need to understand the rugged box that is actually sitting on a subway platform sniffing the air.
Okay, let's unpack that physical hardware. This brings us to Battelle. And for those unfamiliar, This is not, some Silicon Valley startup pivoting to security hardware.
Definitely not.
No. Battelle is a massive nonprofit charitable trust. They began operations way back in 1929.
They've been around forever.
Seriously. Over 90 years of research and development history, 20,000 employees globally, and they conduct billions in research.
So they bring a tremendous amount of institutional weight to the table.
Yeah. When they engineer a piece of tactical gear, it is built for the harshest realities of field deployment.
Which is, frankly, immediately evident in the iREBS design specifications.
How so?
Well, the system is built to operate continuously and autonomously for up to a month.
Wow, a whole month.
Yeah, doesn't need a coffee break. And for portable tactical missions, it runs on a really robust 12-hour battery.
That's impressive.
But the most critical engineering feat, and this is huge, is that it functions using absolutely no liquid consumables.
Okay, wait, I want to highlight that specific detail because, well, it seems totally counterintuitive to me.
How so?
Well, if you think about testing for biology, like testing for anthrax or a virus, you usually picture a scientist in a lab, right?
Right, with the pipettes and everything.
Yeah, mixing a sample into a vial of liquid chemicals to see if it changes color or something.
Yeah.
Why is engineering a system with zero liquids such a monumental leap forward?
Basically because logistics dictate security.
Okay.
Traditional biodetectors often relied on liquid reagents to cause those exact chemical reactions you just mentioned. But liquids are a massive, massive operational liability out in the real world.
Oh, because of the weather.
Exactly. Think about an outdoor sensor in Chicago. In January, your liquid reagents freeze and expand. In July, they evaporate or boil.
Oh, what a nightmare.
Plus, they have really strict chemical expiration dates. But worst of all, they require a human being to constantly walk up to the machine, open a panel, and physically pour in fresh chemicals.
Which means paying a specialized technician to do literally nothing but drive around a city all day refilling plastic jugs.
Precisely. It's wildly inefficient. By engineering a system that uses zero liquid consumables, Battelle eliminated the most expensive and fragile part of the operational life cycle.
So it's just self-sustaining.
Yeah, the machine just sits there, pulling in air, requiring almost zero physical maintenance.
Okay, so if the machine is not mixing subway air with liquid chemicals to test for a threat, how is it identifying anything at all?
That's the genius of it. The mechanism driving this is a technology called Raman spectroscopy.
Raman spectroscopy. Let's break down the actual physics happening inside this box. How does that work?
So Raman spectroscopy is essentially a method of identifying materials using light.
Just light.
It's just light. Inside the REBS unit, there's a laser. When the machine pulls in a microscopic particle from the air, it hits that particle with the laser.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
The light from the laser interacts directly with the molecular bonds of the particle. We're looking at the physical bonds that make up, a cell's DNA, its RNA, its spore coat, or its cell membrane.
It's kind of like hitting a bell with a tiny hammer and listening to the specific tone it rings out. But instead of sound, we're dealing with light and molecules.
Oh, that is a brilliant analogy. Yes, exactly.
It just makes it easier to visualize.
It really does. Every biological substance has a unique conformational structure, meaning the physical shape and layout of its molecules are completely distinct.
Right.
So when the laser's photons hit that specific molecular structure, the energy of the photon shifts slightly as it bounces back. It scatters in a very specific pattern.
And that scattered pattern is the ring of the bell. It creates a highly specific spectral signature, biological fingerprint.
You've got it. The machine's optical sensors read that scattered light signature and instantly compare it to an onboard digital library of known biowarfare threats.
See, what blows my mind about this process is the triage timeline.
It is incredibly fast.
Right, because it doesn't try to instantly identify the specific strain of anthrax the millisecond. A particle enters the machine, which, that would require massive computing power.
Oh, yeah, a supercomputer, basically.
Yeah, so it filters the air in stages, right? First, it takes the machine just 0.1 seconds to look at a particle and determine, is this organic or inorganic?
Right, just a very basic yes or no.
Yeah. If it's just a fleck of metal, it throws it out. If it is organic, it takes 10 seconds to ask, is this biological or non-biological?
Narrowing it down.
And then finally, if it is biological, it takes a mere 50 seconds to positively identify a specific biowarfare threat.
50 seconds. From a particle floating into a vent to a definitive molecular level threat identification.
That's practically real time.
In the realm of biodefense, that speed is absolutely vital. It provides near real-time intelligence, giving security directors the actual window they need to initiate evacuations or, shut down ventilation systems before a pathogen spreads widely.
Okay, I have to stop you there, though, because the math isn't mathing for me on the environmental side.
What do you mean?
Well, you put a highly sensitive laser in a subway, right?
Yeah.
Every time a massive train hits the brakes, it kicks up this huge cloud of metallic dust, brake fluid, human skin cells, and whatever else is living on the tracks.
Oh, it's disgusting down there.
It is. So how does a laser not trigger a false alarm every 5 seconds when it's just blinded by all that garbage?
Well, that environmental chaos is exactly what killed previous generations of biodetectors.
I can imagine.
Older systems would suck in a whole volume of air and just try to analyze everything all at once.
Like a vacuum cleaner.
Exactly. They were looking at a giant clump of brake dust, mold, and cleaning chemicals and trying to find a microscopic threat hidden in all that noise.
That sounds impossible.
It was. It created what scientists call interferent confusion. The signal was just too messy, and that led to constant, endless false alarms.
So how does the RBS unit survive the brake dust then?
By utilizing single particle isolation.
Single particle.
Right. The system uses specialized aerodynamics to pull the air through a microscopic pathway, essentially forcing the particles to line up single file.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the laser does not hit a clump of dust, it hits one individual particle at a time.
So it's looking at everything individually.
Exactly. It completely ignores extrinsic variability. If a deadly spore is floating right next to a piece of, say, Arizona test dust, the system does not get confused. It isolates the spore, reads its specific Raman signature, and just ignores the dirt entirely.
See, proving that this single-file laser sorting works in a pristine laboratory is one thing, but deploying it into the real world is the true test.
Oh, absolutely.
And to prove it, they ran an operational test right in the belly of the beast, the Boston MBTA subway system.
A subway system is arguably one of the most hostile environments on Earth for a sensitive optical instrument.
I believe it.
You have massive sudden fluctuations in air pressure every single time a train arrives. You have extreme variations in humidity, temperature, and just this constant slurry of ambient biological background noise.
And the scale of the Boston test was massive. They bolted these REBS units into the Davis, Porter, and Harvard stations.
Heavy foot traffic area.
Yeah. The systems ran for over 2,400 hours of continuous operation. And during that window, they pulled 5,860 distinct samples and analyzed nearly 3.5 million individual particles.
And out of those 3.5 million particles, in literally one of the dirtiest environments imaginable, the system returned 0 false positives for biological warfare agents.
0. And they were intentionally trying to trick the machines, right?
Yeah, they were.
They released safe biological simulants on the subway platforms to see if the REBS units could pick them out of the background noise of everyday subway mold and bacteria.
And the units caught the simulants with a 100% identification rate while still maintaining that 0 false alarm rate for actual weapons.
That 0 false positive metric has to be the holy grail for a transit authority.
Oh, it's everything. Think about the cascading consequences of a false alarm in a major metropolitan subway system.
Well, it would be a nightmare.
You have to shut down all train traffic, deploy hazardous material teams, initiate emergency broadcasts, trigger mass panic. The economic and social cost is just staggering.
Right.
If a technology cries wolf even once, the operators will just turn it off and never trust it again. 0 false positives is the absolute baseline requirement for adoption.
But let's say the absolute worst happens.
Okay.
The machine pulls in a particle, hits it with the laser, checks the spectral signature, and positively identifies a real live threat.
The nightmare scenario.
Right. Even with a perfect track record, a security director needs undeniable physical proof before they call the president or the governor to declare an emergency.
You can't just rely on a digital beep.
Exactly. And this is where the hardware has an incredible failsafe built right in. When it positively identifies a threat, the machine automatically ejects a physical sample of that specific air volume, a small disc they call a CHAD, into a sealed 6 milliliter vial.
Yeah, this is known as the orthogonal identification feature. It bridges the gap between digital sensing and actual physical evidence.
That's so smart.
The machine provides the immediate 50-second digital warning to start the evacuation, but it also creates a secure physical archive of the event for later.
It is like having a smart security camera that emails you a photo of a burglar in your house, but also physically prints out a thread from their jacket for the police lab to analyze under a microscope.
That's a perfect way to put it.
It gives you the digital speed plus the hard physical evidence.
And that physical evidence is critical because it's taken to a secondary laboratory for PCR testing.
Like the COVID tests.
Exactly, polymerase chain reaction. PCR is a highly established genetic sequencing method that definitively confirms the DNA of the threat, providing the ultimate legal and scientific verification of the event.
And retrieving that little vial of evidence requires humans to get involved, which brings up a really fascinating design detail. The control keypad on the exterior of the REBS unit is explicitly engineered to be MOPP-IV compatible.
Yes. MOPP-IV is the highest level of chemical and biological protective gear used by the military and hazardous response teams.
It's intense.
We're talking about a full-body, heavy rubber suit, a sealed gas mask, and thick, incredibly cumbersome rubber gloves.
Right, so you cannot operate a delicate touchscreen or tiny buttons when you're wearing a bulky rubber suit like that.
No, you just mash all the buttons at once.
Exactly. So the physical buttons on this machine are large, they're tactile, and they're spaced really far apart. A responder in full protective gear can safely walk up to the machine, interact with the interface, eject the sample vial, and secure the evidence without fumbling or, risking a tear in their suit.
It really demonstrates a deep understanding of the end user. The engineers didn't just think about the physics of the laser, they thought about the terrifying physical reality of the human being who has to respond to a positive alarm.
Okay, so we have established that the hardware is an engineering marvel.
No doubt.
It is a rugged, autonomous box that sniffs the air, lines up particles single file, ignores subway dirt, finds a threat in 50 seconds, and spits out a physical sample for the hazmat team.
It does it all.
But historically, there was a massive, glaring operational flaw in how biodetectors were managed across a city. And the bottleneck was the human element.
This represents the major transition in modern security architecture. Because imagine you have 50 of these autonomous units deployed across a sprawling metropolitan area, or, say, scattered across a massive military installation in the desert.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
What happens when unit number 42 registers a minor system fault, or just needs its daily sampling cycle adjusted?
Historically, an operator had to physically visit that specific unit, right?
Yeah.
A human being had to get into a vehicle, drive across the city or the base, walk up to the machine and physically push a button just to clear the fault.
It's archaic.
And if that machine happened to be in a restricted area, or worse, a zone that might actually be contaminated, that human had to put on the full MOPP IV hazmat suit just to go look at a blinking red light.
It is a profound logistical failure. It drastically elevates the physical exposure risk for your personnel, for one.
Putting them in harm's way for a glitch.
Exactly. But beyond the danger, it is incredibly inefficient. Relying on local physical management means your response times to system faults or alarms are severely delayed by traffic, distance, and the time it takes to don that protective gear.
It slows everything down.
It compromises the operational readiness of the entire network.
Which brings us to the software solution, iREBS, developed by Germanizer. This is a remote biosurveillance platform that takes all of these isolated standalone REBS units and connects them securely to the cloud.
It's the missing link.
Yeah, it transforms a collection of disconnected boxes into a cohesive, intelligent, citywide network.
It fundamentally changes the operational dynamic. With the iREBS software, your operators sit in a centralized, secure command center.
Safe and sound.
Exactly. From a single screen, they can remotely start and stop the instruments, they can adjust the sampling schedules. Most importantly, they can acknowledge alarms and clear minor system faults from miles away, keeping human beings entirely out of harm's way.
Okay, I am going to play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
Obviously, it is safer to not send a human into a potential biohazard zone just to push a reset button.
Of course.
But how much time does a remote dashboard actually save in the grand scheme of a massive military operation?
Sure.
Like, are we just talking about an added convenience, or does it actually change the math of the operation?
Oh, it goes far beyond convenience. It is a massive force multiplier for the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The data on implementing the iREBS software shows that cutting down on unnecessary travel and physical site visits yields a 30 to 40% improvement in overall personnel productivity.
Wow, a 30 to 40% boost is staggering. You're essentially getting nearly half of your workforce back.
Think about the hidden logistics of a physical site visit, right? You have to sign out a vehicle, you have to maintain that vehicle.
Drive through traffic.
Right, and you have to deal with security clearances to enter restricted zones. You spend 20 minutes putting on protective gear and another 20 minutes carefully taking it off and decontaminating.
It's a whole ordeal.
Exactly. By eliminating all of that friction for routine checks, your highly trained security personnel can actually spend their time on threat analysis, strategic planning, and rapid response, rather than just acting as highly paid couriers.
So the people actually running the security experience a total shift in operational flexibility. The iREBS software provides a central command dashboard featuring a map-based geographic overview.
Which is so crucial for visualization.
Yeah, you are looking at a live digital map of your city, your subway system, or your military base. You can see the exact geographical location of every single sensor, monitor its real-time health status, and get instant visual alerts the second something goes wrong.
And the situational awareness this provides is critical for a coordinated response. You can prioritize your resources instantly.
How so?
Well, if you see an alarm trigger on the north side of a stadium and another trigger downwind 3 minutes later, you can physically track the plume of the threat on your map before a single first responder even picks up a radio.
That's incredible. The real-world applications for this kind of network surveillance are just massive.
Oh, completely.
We're looking at citywide biosurveillance to protect general public health.
Yeah.
We're looking at securing international border checkpoints where thousands of people and vehicles cross daily.
The military applications alone are huge.
Right. You could deploy these continuously on forward operating military bases to protect sensitive operational zones. Or you could set up a temporary network of them for a massive high-risk event like, presidential inauguration, the Super Bowl, or the Olympics.
However, when you start discussing continuous deployment on military bases or border checkpoints, you immediately collide with the immovable object of cybersecurity.
Of course, yeah.
You're dealing with highly classified, incredibly sensitive national security data. You cannot just broadcast the biothreat status of a covert military base over a generic public cloud server.
And that is a crucial detail regarding the iREBS platform. It isn't just an app you download on your phone. It offers flexible deployment options designed specifically to solve that exact security problem.
Right.
The software can be deployed in the cloud for standard, low-risk civilian use, but it also fully supports on-premise or hybrid environments. And this ensures compliance with the incredibly strict data security policies of government and military agencies.
Which is the absolute barrier to entry for any military adoption. If the data is not secure, the platform is useless to them.
It is essentially the bank vault approach.
How do you mean?
Well, a major bank might use the public internet to let you check your everyday checking account balance on your phone, right?
Sure.
But they're going to keep their gold bars, their master ledgers, and their most valuable assets in a physical vault that is completely disconnected from the outside world.
That's a great analogy.
If a military base is detecting live biological warfare agents, they definitely do not want that telemetry traversing the public internet. They want it on their own, secure, lockdown on-premise servers.
Exactly. And bridging that gap between a complex cybersecurity and physical operations requires a very deliberate integration process.
It's not just plug and play.
Not at all. Organizations do not just buy this software and flip a switch. The integration involves mandatory joint workshops between the organization's IT and security teams and their on-the-ground operations teams.
Because the IT department wants everything locked down behind firewalls, and the operations team wants everything to be fast and easy to use in an emergency.
Exactly the tension they have to resolve. These workshops are where they define the alarm workflows, the reporting hierarchies, and the specific user roles.
Working out the kinks.
Right. When a 50-second threat identification comes through, there can be no ambiguity about who gets the alert, who authorizes the evacuation, and who deploys the hazmat team.
That has to be seamless.
Only after those workflows are rigidly defined do they move to a small-scale pilot deployment for real-world stress testing.
It is a massive, complex undertaking, but when you step back and look at the whole picture, the evolution of this technology is just incredible.
It really is.
We started this deep dive down at the molecular level, looking at the physics of Raman spectroscopy and how a laser bounces off the unique conformational structure of a single DNA cell.
And from there, we explored how Battelle engineered that delicate physics into a rugged, battery-powered box that can sit in a filthy, dust-choked subway station for a month.
With zero liquids.
Exactly. A machine that isolates single particles, ignores the noise, definitively identifies a threat in 50 seconds without a single drop of liquid, and physically ejects the evidence for the lab.
And finally, Germanizer took that physical hardware and elevated it into a network, giving us secure, remote control that keeps human beings entirely out of the hot zone, boosting operational productivity by 40% in the process.
It's really the perfect synthesis of hardware engineering and software infrastructure.
It takes the invisible, terrifying threats of the modern world and makes them measurable and manageable.
It does. But, if we connect this incredible technological leap to the bigger picture, there is a lingering question we have to consider.
Oh, what's that?
Well, we now possess the capability to deploy network-connected, autonomous biosensors that can definitively identify deadly threats in 50 seconds without human intervention.
Right.
So how long until these devices become as cheap and ubiquitous as the CCTV cameras we already accept on every street corner? And what does a future of constant, everyday environmental biological surveillance look like for our personal privacy and for the future of global public health?
That is definitely something to think about. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Stay tuned for another interesting episode of Inside the Future.